Holy shit. So you got a bombshell ruling here, 5-4. 5-4 ruling that goes against the Trump administration. $2 billion worth of contracts, both USAID and State Department contracts, are now unfrozen. They are unfrozen. Congress, I thought, had the power of the purse. They had already approved all these jobs, and so all those jobs that had their work completed prior to February 13th, which is when I believe the executive order was issued, all of that previous work has to be paid for. This guy lied 30,000 times in his first administration. He has all those contractors. All those contractors he doesn't like to pay, right? You trick the damn workers to build the building and then you just stiff them on the payments, hoping they don't sue you or don't know enough about the law to sue you in court. And then even if they do sue you, then, you kind of can harangue them and drag it out for years and years and years. But ultimately, you were able to steal their labor. So the U.S. aid funds were approved by Congress. This clears the way forward for the lower district courts. It's a very narrow ruling. It clears the way forward for lower district courts to compel payments if they're very specific about the contracts. Because if you're going to sue the government, then you have to say, what is the law that's being broken, what is the damages, and you got to go through all that rigmarole. This is the second case that has been given to SCOTUS with questions about the totalitarian fascism that is brewing in the executive branch. The administration is trying to terminate 90% of USAID. 5,800 of the USAID projects have been terminated, or they're trying to terminate them, and 500 of them were being retained. Now let's take a look at some of this. Here is the U.S. District Court judge that has started it all, Amir Ali, U.S. District Court Judge Amir Ali. He's the one that is going to freeze the stopping of the payments, right? So that's a double negative, but basically, no, you can't do the executive order. You got to pay your damn bills, pay your contracts. So this is the district court that's the issue is in front of. I'm not for sure where he actually is a judge. We can take a look at that real quick. Says he was a Canadian-American lawyer, and he's serving as the U.S. District Judge of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. So that's right there in D.C., Amir Ali. So he's a district judge in D.C. Now, here are the Supreme Court justices to let you know where they vote, because this indicates maybe, perhaps, which are the justices that have enough balls to stand up to a fascist, to stand up to a bully. We got 3 branches of government, but not if one of the branches just, rubber stamps and fondles and gargles and chortles the chud, chortles the chode of that baboon's ass. You don't want to chortle the chode of a baboon's ass. Come on now. Alito, Clarence Thomas, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh. So you got this Kavanaugh guy here. He was like, hey, Donald, you could do whatever the hell you want. And then you had Gorsuch. Gorsuch is like, hey, man, just I'll get on my hands and knees and I'll suck. And then you have Thomas, right? Good old Coke bottle Thomas. And then you got Alito, right? So that leaves the other 5 justices. You got Elena Kagan, you got Ketanji Brown Jackson, you have John Roberts, you have, of course, Amy. Good old Amy. Amy Coney Barrett. She's turning out to be pretty independent. I like that she's independent. The reason why this is so significant, because this is a Trump-dominated court. So a Trump-dominated court is saying there's some things that Donald is not allowed to do. And then, of course, Sonia Sotomayor. So the 5 justices, you have, of course, the 3 so-called liberals, right? Elena, Ketanji, and Sonia Sotomayor. But then you also have John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett. So you got these 4 guys here who's all about being a sycophant, kiss ass, and then you got 5 at least. So we could see future rulings where you have those same five that are willing to say, no, you cannot be a totalitarian, autocratic dictator. We have three branches of government for a reason. No, you cannot be a monarch. The whole point of America is that we don't have a king. We're not just going to follow anything that you happen to fart out of your, tuchus. Anything you fart out of your tuchus, we don't have to just go along with. That is not what this country is about. We have enumerated powers. We got three branches of government: the rule of law, elections, constitutions, Bill of Rights, like federalism, bicameralism. We got like a whole thing going on here. We're going to stop kings. We are against tyranny. We are against tyrants. When tyranny becomes the rule, when tyranny becomes the fact, then revolution becomes the duty. So let's be America strong. Let's keep on going with the American experiment. We have a republic to run. Can we run ourselves? Of course we could run ourselves. We don't need a dictator, autocratic monarch to force us to obey. I got this lady here, which
carry out that responsibility. Now, this ruling only accounts for that part of this USAID case.
So this was for the AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition. So AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition, are they, helping spreading, to spread AIDS vaccines? If you're just going to allow AIDS to spread all over the world, that was the big thing with Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan knew about AIDS and he didn't do a damn thing about it. They thought it was all just in the gay community, and then, oh, lo and behold, even opposite sex couples can catch AIDS, and now we got an AIDS epidemic. What was it? Ebola prevention. That was something Elon Musk said, hey, we had stopped Ebola prevention, but it turns out maybe we shouldn't have done that. Well, maybe you shouldn't stop AIDS prevention either, So this is going to force the administration to pay for the work that was already completed prior to February 13th. This is U.S. District Court, Amir Ali, to USAID State Department contracts. Let's see here. How come Congress hasn't assented to any of these executive orders? We do have the people who are supposed to write the laws is Congress. This guy is writing the laws. Let's listen to what this lady, Lisa Ree Millard, has to say about this Foreign Aid USA freeze Supreme Court case.
Only addresses that immediate payments that now must go out on behalf of USAID. The question of whether President Trump actually has the authority to stop congressionally approved funding from going out is the much bigger question that is still playing out in the D.C. federal court. It's actually a question that's being litigated in a lot of courtrooms across the country. Now, this ruling could now give other federal judges hearing similar cases confidence to stop Trump's actions in the cases playing out in their courtrooms. But the ending of all of this is very clear. It may not happen tomorrow, it may not happen next month, but this is all headed for a constitutional separation of powers showdown between the Trump administration, Congress, and the United States Supreme Court.
And there you go. That's the final word. And that's oh my God. Marco Rubio has got the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast. Isn't that the whore of Babylon? Isn't that Revelations? Doesn't that mean the apocalypse is upon us? That's the mark of the beast, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. What did Andrew Jackson say? Andrew Jackson had said something about something. Andrew Jackson actually had a really good quote. Andrew Jackson, it was, I don't want to say it was about the banks. I'll say that it was about the Trail of Tears. But you had the Supreme Court that had issued a ruling, and it said, Andrew Jackson, you can't do what you're doing. The Supreme Court said no to Andrew Jackson. Now Nixon is going to respect the Supreme Court, and he's, when the Supreme Court ruled against him, he resigned shortly thereafter. But Andrew Jackson didn't give a damn about no Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said that his Trail of Tears or something or another was unconstitutional, and then Andrew Jackson had the retort, well, the Supreme Court has made their ruling, now let them enforce it. Well, you went ahead and made your ruling now. Now why don't you go and enforce it? So technically speaking, the president could just ignore the court order, could just ignore the court ruling, and do as the hell as he pleases anyways. That's a possibility. That's a possibility. And like this lady had said, Lisa Millard, she said that where is the dividing line between the three branches of government? The Supreme Court is going to say what powers Congress has, what power does the executive branch versus the legislative branch. And so that would be a very important ruling. And you would need some really smart lawyers to argue that case.